So here's a few news articles that I thought were interesting. The problem we've been talking about an awful lot over the last year or two is all the junk in space. There's so much junk that is dangerous. The space station keeps getting hit, and we're at great risk that at some point I'm getting distracted by this moving spot on the screen. Well, anyway, we're getting concerned that at some point two big things will collide, and that'll create a cascade effect and make it unusable, make space unusable for centuries. So they're planning to, Pentagon is now funding private companies to develop some kind of gadget to go up there and take down the junk, which is a pretty heroic task, but they have various plans to do it. Going up and connecting with a piece of junk with a magnet or something and slowing it down. So hopefully one of those plans will work. It sounds almost impossibly difficult, just like carbon capture, where you're actually going to try to suck the CO2 out of the atmosphere. Just sort of an insane thing to do. So the new COVID Omicron variant, BA2, is spreading through all 50 states. Or no, only half the states yet. But every time I see the news, every 12 hours, it's much worse. So it's spreading like crazy. So Omicron is on the way down, but this will be the next one on the way up right behind it. This one I was quite interested in. I've been hearing a lot of political news about the voting laws that Republicans pass and how the Democrats don't want them passed. And this one here seemed to me that it kind of made sense. The point is, during COVID, they switched to mail-in voting with no reason for it. And what the court said is you don't really have the legal ability to just decide that. You have to pass legislation approving that change, which sounds quite reasonable to me. I mean, I'd like to see everybody have mail-in voting the way we do in California, but it seems to me like the court is probably correct that there are procedures you have to go through to switch to that kind of voting, and they didn't do it. In the rush to respond to the pandemic, they switched to mail-in voting and did it only on a temporary basis, and if you want to make it a permanent change like that, you have to pass it in legislation. So it seems somewhat reasonable. There have been a couple articles out here. I think this is one of them. Yeah, a lot of these people, somebody wrote an article. Do I have to fill out the 3 forms if I'm currently a full-time employee? Yes, if you want to get credit in the course, you have to fill out 3 forms and get a supervisor to sign them. Being full-time is fine. That means you'd be able to fulfill the hourly requirement quickly. But to get credit, you have to fill out the 3 forms. Anyway, a lot of people have been trumpeting versions of this article that they think quantum computers are going to break the cryptography in Bitcoin, and that is actually probably true as far as the public key elliptic curve cryptography in Bitcoin, but most of the articles like this one mistakenly say it's going to break the hashing, which is not what it's going to break. Yeah, but anyway, yeah. Like I say, I'm just reading a few news articles, so I'll wait till 10 after, and then I'll talk about 197 and 198 to anybody who wants to be here and make sure everybody has got it. Anyway, this is actually a good article from the BBC and reposted at Yahoo. Which the others are written by people that do not understand cryptography, but this is by a group that does. And so their point is they're calling this the quantum apocalypse. Right now, quantum computers are in a prototype stage. They're very weak, and they would have to get 1,000,000 times better before they could really crack modern cryptography. But that might be just 10 or 20 years away. And if that happened, then the current cryptographic schemes we're using would not be reliable, at least the public key ones. The others would probably be fine. So the thing is, though, everyone knows this. The National Institute of Standards knows it. They're having a contest right now to select a post-quantum algorithm. They've extended the length of our current public key keys in the last couple of years to make them more resistant to quantum computation. So this is nothing to panic about. Everybody knows it's coming. We have 10 or 20 years to prepare for it, and they are preparing for it. What's going to happen is, over the next few years, we're going to change our cryptographic algorithms to quantum safe ones. And so I think this is just like Y2K. Y2K was a widely trumpeted point when 1999 changed to 2000, and the really old COBOL-based software written with a 2-digit years would get confused and think it was 1900, and people thought the power plants would all go down and airplanes would fall from the sky, but they spent about a year rewriting all that code so it didn't happen. And this, I think, will not be a disaster. I think it just means we need to prepare for it, and the preparations are underway. This is a picture of the sun, and it is amazing. This is a picture of the sun taken right through the Earth with neutrinos, which is amazing, and I would have thought it was not possible at all. So it took 500 days of accumulation to get enough neutrinos to trace out this image. Neutrinos are almost entirely indetectable. They hardly interact with matter at all. When I went through physics, they said if you wanted to catch a neutrino, you'd have to have a piece of lead a light year thick to catch a neutrino. They sail right through everything, like the whole Earth, like it's not there. So it's extremely difficult to catch enough of them to measure anything. And that is a notable accomplishment, to actually image the sun through the Earth. Africa has apparently, many parts of Africa have now gotten over the pandemic. But the reason they have is they're extremely young there. There's a nation here in Malawi where the average age of people is 17. So when he did blood tests, he found out like 80% of everybody had already had COVID, most of them without even knowing it, because young people have so few symptoms. So they've all had it. It didn't affect them, and the further strains are not really affecting them very much. And, old people, like the United States people and me, would rather get there with vaccines than by prior infection. But anyway, that's... I think after this Omicron wave, and perhaps after the wave after Omicron, will reach the point when practically everybody has either been vaccinated or had it, and it's really not that dangerous anymore, and we can get back to something resembling normal life. So there's this guy called Jonathan Scott, who has for several months been trolling everyone on InfoSec Twitter. He claims to have awesome attacks against Macintoshes and iPhones, and he records these videos that just make no sense at all, where he claims he has done something awesome when he just does normal things on his computer that don't prove anything, and then he gets really mad when people call him out. And now he has claimed that the Chinese Olympic app is stealing your COVID information and other private data from all the athletes, which is apparently completely false. But he doesn't know what he's doing. So he has sloppily applied reverse engineering tools he doesn't understand, made some pictures that make no sense, and claimed that they prove this. And it has caught the attention of political figures who are claiming this proves the Chinese are doing something awful. So the reputable iPhone hacker community is calling him out and attending his Substack to talk about how crazy his claims are. Yeah, I've seen this guy around for the last couple months. He posts these angry videos. And if you say that you don't understand, I first saw him and I posted a statement saying, I don't understand. I watched your video, but I didn't see the part where you actually did anything unusual. It didn't seem like there was any hack. And he got mad and attacked me. And so he's nuts or some kind of fraud or something. And anyway, but now he's managed to get the attention of some politicians. So this is a fairly common problem in information security. You get these charlatans, these people that claim to be hackers and they don't really have any hacking, but they try to confuse people into paying them. Some of them end up getting jobs as security consultants or penetration test companies, and they go around doing junk like the cyber ninjas. So Spotify is sticking with Joe Rogan, even though Neil Young said he won't have anything to do with Spotify if they have Rogan, but they're paying Rogan $100 million a year. Rogan is the number one podcaster in the world. He's really, really a big fish. He's the biggest podcaster in the world. So Spotify has invested heavily in him, and they can't just kick him off without going broke, probably. So they removed all Neil Young's music, and so a bunch of people in protest are leaving Spotify, and so Violet Blue has written up an article on how you can move from Spotify to a different service and port over all your songs and everything so you don't lose them. So that's something you can do if you like. I certainly have no sympathy for Joe Rogan, but I do understand the financial position that Spotify is in. After they have based their whole platform and paid an incredible amount of money to get Joe Rogan, they really can't just kick him off because of the financial consequences. That realistically, they can't financially afford to kick him off until he stops being so popular. And even though he has got the most appalling anti-vax content that just keeps getting worse and worse. The same thing's true of Tucker Carlson, and it really seems to please the people who watch them. It brings in more and more customers. So from a financial point of view, they're not going to cut him off as long as he stays popular. Anyway, that's enough news.